Good evening. We'll call the Planning Commission for the City of Royal Oak to order. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to order at 7 p.m. Let's introduce ourselves, starting to my left.
Gary Casada.
Dan Godat.
Mayor Pro Tem Charlene Douglas.
Mayor Mike Fournier.
Ian Varro.
Tim Twing, Community Development Director.
Jeff Chase.
We have a quorum. Under new business, there's an amendment to reimburse agreement of Brownfield Plan BP 14-04-03 for Harrison Lofts at 590 through 598 East Harrison Avenue and 1210 through 1238 Morse Avenue. Mr. Twing.
The Brownfield Authority originally approved the reimbursement agreement, and the Brownfield Plan was approved in June of 2014. The petitioner is requesting that you amend the reimbursement agreement to allow it to be transferred from the current legal entity to a new legal entity, and I'll let them explain their reasoning. Has to do with the refinancing and the request from their lender. They're also asking that a couple portions of the reimbursement agreement be amended. And those are contained in the staff report to you. Basically, the amendments would allow the petitioner to sell and transfer and assign ownership of the property without the Brownfield Authority's approval. However, if they wanted the assignment of benefits of the reimbursement agreement, they'd still have to come back and get your blessing on that. There's also a provision added in regards to the security pledge or the lender, and how that would function under the proposed amendment in terms of your approval and any transfer of the security party. There's also a third part to that would allow the lender, if they obtained title to it because of foreclosure or other reasons, that they could transfer it to a third party with notification to the Brownfield Authority. And then the last part, if you approve the amendment to the reimbursement agreement, would be actually part of the resolution is approving the assignment and assumption agreement. That's basically the outline of what's in front of you. If there's questions on that, I'll attempt to address them, and I see Mr. Gillum's here, and he was involved with that as well. If you've got some legal questions that he might be able to step in and answer as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Twing? Okay, not seeing any. Could we have the petitioner come up, please? Your name for the record?
Robert Wolfson, 590 East Harrison. Good evening, everyone. Oh, do you want me to speak?
Do you have anything further to add to Mr. Twing's
I have
report?
the only thing that I can add to it is that we're required by the lender. We went from a construction loan to pay that off to get an end mortgage. So the new lender requires us to use a Delaware corporation. So we just took our corporation, put it into the new Delaware, same people. There isn't anything really any different about it. But otherwise, we can't get the reimbursement, and they're holding, almost $750,000 because they can't be in a position where they can't assign it if we don't have the TIF. And we're really just asking for the same thing we got 2 years ago, just to be able to have the Delaware corporation that they require, and it happens quite frequently with lenders. And the other thing is if there was something catastrophic that happened in Royal Oak, essentially, they would take the property back, and if it was empty because of who knows what problem, they'd have to build it back up, get it to where it's leased, and then go sell it. But if they didn't have the right to get the TIF, then they couldn't sell it. So we're really asking to come back to where we were in the beginning and just allow us to, do what we'd have to do to get our lenders to cooperate and give us our mortgages.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner? Would the commission like additional explanations from our attorney?
I guess I would.
Okay. Mr. Gillum?
Good evening, Commissioners. As Mr. Wolfson indicated, what you have before you tonight is really something that's driven by their lenders. It's not something that he necessarily approached the city with. But when Mr. Twing and I were first contacted, there were a couple of different terms and conditions that had been proposed by the lender for purposes of the assignment and the guarantee. That in talking, Mr. Twing and I felt that the interests of the Brownfield Authority and the city weren't really adequately protected. So we asked for certain modifications to the agreement. The lender eventually agreed to those. So I think as far as both the planning department and the city attorney's office are concerned, we're comfortable with the agreement. And if you're also comfortable with it, we would recommend the approval of the proposed resolutions.
Mr. Casada?
So you've seen the loan agreement, you've seen that proposal, I'm guessing. We don't have the loan agreement or the loan proposal or mortgage in front of us, but you've seen it.
The original mortgage, not recently, no. I mean, I've seen the same documents that you have in front of you tonight, so.
Okay, well, what I just heard was, which I think is a practical matter, if something happened to the property and the lender had to come in, they foreclose, they take over, if they want to get their money out of it, they probably do have to build it, or to get the TIF, or they'd have to liquidate it by selling it. I'm just wondering, I didn't see in here any language that said that they have to rebuild a damaged property. But I'm asking a question, can you confirm that?
In terms of the mortgage, I'm not familiar with that specific term of the mortgage, no. So, which I'm not sure if Mr. Wolfson could answer that or not.
So, my name's Adam Lumberg. I represent the property owner. I was the attorney who handled the financing. I'm a real estate transactional attorney. The mortgage is a typical, known in the industry as a CMBS loan. It's a securitized loan. So it's a lender that will immediately package, and probably already has packaged the loan and sold it as a security. In order to sell it, the lender simply required in part one of the transaction was the borrower, the property owner, had to become a Delaware limited liability company. That's just used in the trade, in the securitized market. So we simply formed a Delaware LLC and conveyed the property to that LLC. So that's one of the requests, is to allow us to assign the reimbursement agreement. The second issue, which was a lender issue, and I basically was not involved. I was on phone calls and through correspondence dealing with the lender's counsel and the city attorney, was the lender wanted the ability in the event that they foreclose. It had nothing to do with rebuilding the project. I think he meant if the property was foreclosed upon because they couldn't satisfy their mortgage requirements, the lender would want to step into their shoes and be, step into the shoes of the reimbursements. And they obviously underwrite the reimbursements as part of their net operating income or determination to make the loan or not. So it has nothing to do with a casualty or having to rebuild the property. I think Mr. Wolfson simply meant if he didn't operate the property and wasn't able to pay its mortgage requirements, that the lender would, upon a foreclosure, want the economic benefits that the reimbursement, the TIF, provides. So.
And the TIF would be subject to your approval at that point in time, if someone else was going to come in and try to take advantage of what's already been approved. So.
Ms. Douglas?
But the premise is Mr. Wolfson will continue to own and operate the property.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, we're not.
But it's this,
Same
you
group.
as this Delaware corporation.
Same, we're still,
Correct.
we're in the Delaware now.
The previous LLC, the Michigan LLC, simply formed a Delaware LLC. It's wholly, the Delaware LLC is owned entirely by the old Michigan
Right.
entity, the original developer. They conveyed the property through a quitclaim deed to that entity solely for the loan. I did it the day of the closing. It was the only way to get the financing. And that's a very typical structure.
Does this happen very often? It seems like it might, and yet I can't recall a circumstance where this has been brought to the Brownfield Authority. Mr. Twing, Mr. Gillum, anybody?
No, they're all, the reimbursement agreements are all pretty much drafted the same, particularly the more recent ones that require your action if they're going to transfer the parcel and they want reimbursement.
So I'll tell you another problem is that the lender requires that the entity, the borrower, only own the apartment building. It cannot own and never could own other assets that aren't part of the mortgage. The original borrower owned a little strip of land that wasn't part of it, so that's another reason why we had to form the new entity.
I got it. Okay, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Twing, Mr. Gillum, or the petitioner?
Just a really quick question, if you don't mind. I understand this might be something that happens all the time, but why does the lender want a Delaware company?
You're gonna get me talking about
Keep it concise.
bankruptcy remote issues, protection from the borrower filing bankruptcy, and their assets can get consolidated with their members or sole member.
So some law particular to Delaware
Yeah,
that's
it's
favorable to lenders?
favorable to the lender.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
There is a suggested resolution contained in the report, if you wanted to proceed.
And this is
on
a
page-
single resolution?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll move the resolution.
Moved by Ms. Douglas, is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Godek, any discussion on that? Not seeing all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passed
Thank you very much.
So
unanimously.
as a follow-up question, how do we get the agreements executed by the city?
Well, I'll sign it tomorrow, but after you've signed it.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll have them sign it right now, or I'll email it to you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item,
By the way, we are 100% leased, so we have no plans of having any problems with it. It's just the lender, that's what they do.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it helps us start the other one right away.
okay, item under C, item C under Brownfield Redevelopment Authority is a public comment on non-agenda Brownfield redevelopment items. Is there anybody in the audience that is here for a non-agenda Brownfield redevelopment item? Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public comment. And is there a motion to adjourn the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Godek, support by Ms. Douglas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Okay.